Now, Russia is knocking on the United Nations doors. Moscow has accused Kyiv of planning to deploy a dirty bomb on its own land. Ukraine and the West have denied these claims. In fact, Zelensky has counter-accused the Kremlin of planning a false flag operation. His allies say that Russia is trying to use this claim as a pretext for escalation. Vladimir Putin is yet to raise the issue at the Council, but given the grave accusations, the UN nuclear watchdog, it is already preparing to send its officials to Ukraine. They're going to visit two institutes that have been reportedly preparing dirty bombs here. The aim is to detect any possible undeclared nuclear activity and material. What are dirty bombs? Though these are detonative devices that are with radioactive material. They are much easier, they're cheaper to build than a nuclear device. They don't have the same impact as a nuclear bomb explosion, but it could expose broad areas to radioactive contamination. So the main reason they're usually used is to create panic. It's a psychological tool, which is why this device is called a weapon of mass disruption. The war has entered its 9th month, and this kind of blame game, we've seen this through the past few months. Both sides have blamed each other for false flag operations, but the conflict is at a crucial crossroads. Since September, Russia has intensified its strikes. The attacks have shifted from targeting defense posts to paralyzing critical infrastructure. Now, in the past few weeks, many water and power supply facilities have come under attack as well. Moscow has also changed its game plan to counter gains made by Ukrainian forces. For more on this, we're now being joined by senior journalist Yehor Brylyan from Kyiv. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.
Good morning.
Now, my first question to you, Russia is to raise accusation that Ukraine is planning to deploy a dirty bomb. Now, Ukraine, on the other hand, says this is a pretext for further escalation. What do you make of this recent exchange?
I want to say, first of all, that it's typical Russian accusation of Ukraine in some illegal actions to the point of view of Kremlin, and Ukraine doesn't have any nuclear weapons, and I want to say that Ukraine joined non-proliferation treaty in 1994 by signing Budapest memorandum, and Ukraine gave all its nuclear weapons ironically to Russia, and that's why it is very hard to say that Ukraine will use any nuclear weapons because we don't have it. But Russia has nuclear weapons.
Right. We seem to be having a problem with that line. We will get Mr. Yehor Brylyan with us as soon as we can. We have Mr. Yehor with us once again. Mr. Yehor, I hope you can hear me now.
I can hear you now very clearly, yes.
Sorry, please continue.
Yes. And so Ukraine refused its nuclear weapons in the 90s to Russia, and Ukraine doesn't have any nuclear weapons, and Russia is using its nuclear factor to spread disinformation, and Russia is still using its nuclear rhetoric to say that if NATO will continue to help Ukraine, we will use our nukes in Ukraine. So it's only some kind of bluff of Russia and nothing more.
Right. Talking about NATO now, would you say that Ukraine is supported by NATO in terms of getting real-time intel on Russia's moves in this war, given report of NATO's sophisticated surveillance aircrafts here?
I participated as a journalist at the NATO Defense Ministerial in Brussels in the mid-October, and what can I say? That NATO clearly understands that Russia is terrorizing Ukrainian civilians. That's why in the alliance new assistance package, NATO will provide Ukraine with non-lethal aid, including also portable anti-drone systems regarding Iranian drones Shahid 136. And so NATO's position is very clear. We are not a part of Russia-Ukraine war, but at the same time, we will provide Ukraine with everything what we need.
All right. Well, given the claims and the counterclaims here, how real do you think is the threat of a dirty bomb or an all-out nuclear war here?
Russia can do everything what they want, and we see that we need more international involvement and engagement, especially from International Atomic Energy Agency, and they are becoming more radical in their statements. Yes, they work more with technical questions, like to know the actual situation on the nuclear power plants all over the world, but at the same time, Rafael Grossi and other officials of this agency, they say very clear that Russia is a threat and Ukraine is a victim of Russian aggression. And I want to remind you that Russian rhetoric remains the same. They want to destroy Ukrainian nations by any means.
Right. And now just for more clarity here, we've touched on this earlier as well. There seems to be some confusion about what dirty bombs actually are. Can you just explain this to us?
It can be any strategic nuclear weapons, ballistic missile, or other rocket. Russia has a lot of Soviet bombs or rockets or missiles. So Russian playbook is following. They spread some narratives through anonymous Telegram channels, and Ukrainian population and other world, they see that these narratives are the same from the Russian side. So the accusations of Ukraine, but what kind of dirty bomb? It could only be some fantasies of Sergei Shoigu or other senior military officials of the Russian Federation.
All right. Well, Mr. Ihor Brailan, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast with all your insights on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.